has to be expected. I was asked a lot about this. I was streaming when the news broke that Donald Trump had tested positive for COVID-19. And, I look on Twitter. Twitter is the hellhole that it is, crap fest that it is. And, not even talking about, I'm not even going to use this video to go in on all of their comments about, let's say, Trump and stuff like that, and the hypocrisy sort of showing that, wishing death upon him and all that sort of stuff. Y'all got that. What I more so want to highlight is how this changes nothing. Nothing. It changes nothing. You got people that were saying, acting like they was like, I told you so, right? You should have taken it serious, right? Taking it serious. They say that, of course, in response to anybody that doesn't agree with their draconian lockdowns or mask mandates or anything like that. They scream at the mountaintops. And they are now, as if this proves something. Trump didn't take it serious. Whatever the hell that means. And now he has it. See, who told you so. This, blah, blah, blah. And then you got all these other folk acting like it's the plague and all this. Nothing changes. Is Trump going to likely be fine? All statistics point to exactly that. He's more than likely going to be just fine. Even in his age group. If he's not, doesn't change anything. The point still remains. Lockdowns was stupid. Mask mandates was stupid. And the lockdowns, all the restrictions should be ended immediately. This changes nothing in that regards. See, a lot of us that have been talking about this in March, going by what the data said, going by what the experts say, and said, we pretty much assumed that once it touched down, everybody was going to, let's take a step back. Maybe not everybody, but a lot of us were going to get it. That was always the assumption. Even the flatten the curve thing, that never assumed that people weren't going to get the virus. It was never even one to stop people from getting the virus. That was a method that was centered around trying to slow it down so you don't overwhelm your hospitals. That was the whole point of that. Now we're 7 months into flatten the curve, nonetheless. But here we are. I assume that at some point, considering how contagious they had said it was, how easily this was able to be spread, it was an inevitable thing. The president got it. You probably got it or had it or probably going to get it. It's just a reality that we're going to have to face. And this is a great time for people to start working on their health, right? This is why some of the epidemiologists that you guys were, well, not you guys, but a lot of folks, even within the science community, told them to get in line in the event that they said, let it pass through. The lockdowns are making it worse. You especially shouldn't lock the kids up. Let it run its course. Isolate the the more vulnerable population and let that stuff burn through everybody else. I assumed always that I was probably going to get it if I haven't already had it before. But I personally assumed that that was going to always be the case. So nothing changes. The left is looking at gotcha. Should have taken it serious. Lockdowns, all of this sort of stuff that they wanted to happen. No, all that was still stupid. Doesn't change the fact that the survival rate for this, for the vast majority of the population, is 99%. Over that for people that get this. That's what the data says. That doesn't change. I know because that stuff is good news and you hate good news, they then have to move the post and they say, well, what about the long-term effects, right? No true data is pointing to that being like a a big time issue, right? But you know, you get isolated events where people have some sort of issue. They say, well, people are having their lungs scarred or organ damage or something like that. Things that, believe it or not, people get when you get the flu, when they get the flu sometimes, get these extreme cases, cold as well. So y'all can, gotcha, all of that stuff, looking at me like, tweeting me like, see, even, you should have taken it. Look, just because y'all's crackhead behinds wanted a lockdown and wanted all these mandates and these mask mandates and all of these restrictions, does not mean that we weren't taking it seriously. You know it exists. They always have the straw man, right? When you call them dramatizing it, which they have, you say that they dramatize it, and then they look at the fact that, well, someone dies or a group of people or multiple people die, 200,000 or whatever the number is now. They look at that and they say, you see, you called it a hoax. No, nobody, fool. I didn't say that. I just said y'all were dramatizing it because y'all was. 200,000 people died from this virus in 7 months, which is tragic. Now, some of those numbers may be flaky when you consider that they've been caught putting people like freaking people that in motorcycle accidents in these numbers. So you can take those with a grain of salt if you want to trust them, whatever. But even if we assume, believe it or not, there's a lot of other people that died too, right? None of us are getting on the other side of this bad boy alive. And as tragic as it might be, when someone that you love passes away from any damn thing, a virus is a virus. You know, people die from them. People died from viruses long before them. People get viral pneumonia and die. It happens. It sucks. But it happens. It's not anything worth locking people down for. Let people assume the risk. So what I've always said, if you want to stay your silly behind at home with your healthy body, cooped up, wearing masks, 100% 24/7, do that. That is your right to do. Just don't force everybody else to do it. You own a business, you want to make sure people social distance. You want to force them to wear a mask in your business. By all means, do that. Don't force other people to do it. See, the solution was always simple. You just didn't want to listen. As always, you used it as this sort of moment to take more power, be the little authoritarian crap bags that you guys are, where you think it's okay to ruin people's livelihoods because you scared, right? And then you look at all the data and you see certain areas and the half mask mandates aren't doing really well with it. And you got the Swedens of the world, no mask mandates, no lockdowns, and you always want to compare them to the guys around the world. They did worse than the people around. Well, wait, that was never the argument. If the data, well, I don't even want to call it data because it wasn't. It was more of models. If this virus was as dangerous as you guys were initially saying, it shouldn't have even been close. It should have been through the stratosphere. But it never got there. And they're dealing with this better than America. Believe it or not, now. We'll look at the numbers right now, live. Right now. The United States with the lockdowns, have passed Sweden. And then you look at all of these countries right here that have these draconian lockdowns, the Perus of the world. The Spains, who had a very bad time. Lockdowns. Still have more deaths per million. It happens. I just don't think the science that you guys are referencing was as sound as you pretended that it was when it came to these lockdowns. Of course, that's more of an economic question anyway. You can't account for that. That's human action, right? Just putting a lockdown in place and you thinking that's going to... So a lot of other factors that you got to take into consideration. But I never assumed that people weren't going to get it. I can understand the arguments that you guys were making and not wanting to overwhelm the hospitals. Sweden didn't have the hospitals overwhelmed, so they won. That was the only argument, right? When you move the goalposts and you got to look at the neighbors and all that. That's moving the goalposts. The point was, when you said flatten the curve, was that you didn't overwhelm the hospitals. Sweden never had the hospitals overwhelmed. Latest episode of For Canon's Sake, I believe we talked to someone from Sweden. You can go check that out. But yeah, Trump has COVID. A lot of you probably wish that he dies from it. And you're looking at me. Some of you are looking at the guys that have been anti-lockdown. And you say, see what happens? Now the president got it. So what? Doesn't change jack. We always assume this. That's more than likely going to have to get it, you know. Nothing changes, man. Nothing changes.